The authors of the ISO 9001 standards say that the organization should identify opportunities for improvement and take necessary actions to ensure that the requirements of customers are met and their satisfaction with the use of our services or products increases. I will now go back to the lesson on the requirements of the standard in chapters 4, 5, and 6. Do you remember the principles regarding objectives and the SMART concept? Again, I must stress how important this is, also for improving the organization. Ambitious, well-defined objectives, which are consistent with the strategy, show the organization the way to continuous improvement. Further requirements relate to non-conformities and corrective actions. The organization is required to react appropriately to non-conformities, to assess the need for actions to be taken to eliminate the cause of the non-compliance, and to review the effectiveness of the actions undertaken. Let us go back to cake manufacturing for a while. Imagine that we received a complaint from a customer. The customer demands reimbursement of costs because the cake delivered was damaged. The customer provides photos confirming the situation along with the complaint. How should we react to this situation? Well, first of all, we must react. It is unacceptable to leave such a situation with no reaction. When we have an appropriate procedure which directly tells us how to react in such a case, we are in a much easier situation. We simply follow the instructions. However, not all situations have procedures in place to deal with nonconformity. When we do not have a specific way of proceeding, then we must thoroughly analyze the situation, check what damaged the cake, and take appropriate steps that will reduce the probability of reoccurrence of such a situation in the future. We should also remember to check the effectiveness of the actions undertaken. It is very important not to make any rash decisions and not to implement ill-considered solutions. During the analysis, it is worth considering the root causes of the problem. When we act at the source of the problem, we are sure that the actions taken will bring the expected results. If you want to learn more about solving problems and becoming familiar with simple tools to help you solve problems, I encourage you to take a look at the materials in the module related to these issues. And now let us go back to the corrective actions, which are the basis for the improvement of the quality management system. If we receive a complaint concerning the damaged cake, corrective actions may include, for example, modification of the packaging method or change of packaging materials, for example, thicker cardboard or plastic box. If corrective actions have been implemented, we should monitor their efficiency and assess their effectiveness. We have to answer the question, have the actions taken resulted in the fact that products delivered to the customers are in good condition? Is there no longer a problem with the product damage? We should also remember to keep documents as evidence that appropriate corrective or preventative actions have been taken to prevent reoccurrence of the noncompliance. And now let us move on to further requirements. They are about the necessity of continuous improvement of the usefulness, adequacy, and effectiveness of the quality management system. We live in times which are characterized by variability of the environment. The organizations that are successful on the market have high level of flexibility, excellent management of the change process, and adaptation of their activities to the expectations of relevant stakeholders. These features often determine competitive advantage. Are you able to draw any conclusions from this or yourself or your organization? The more we take a look at our system, analyze processes, and monitor indicators, the faster we respond to situations that suggest implementation of changes and improvements. Well-developed organizations usually review the quality management system every 3 months. Decision makers, process owners, or their representatives take part in this assessment. During such meetings, the persons in charge of specific areas discuss the indicators for which they are responsible, inform about nonconformities or identified problems within their areas. A management review is a good point to share your thoughts and suggestions on the system improvement. In the event of non-conformity or a problem affecting more than one area in the company, and it happens very often, a special team is usually appointed which is responsible for solving the problem and verifying the effectiveness of actions undertaken. However, the management is responsible for ensuring adequate resources for the implementation of pro-quality projects and giving priority to these activities. Now let us try to think about the inputs and outputs for the management review. Inputs should consist of information and analyses from particular processes or areas of the organization. Internal and external audits results. Relevant information received from customers and other stakeholders. Corrective actions results. The previous conclusions of previous management reviews, including the status of implementation of planned activities. All kinds of macroeconomic analyses considering legislative changes, competition activities, or new industry trends that are important for the organization. On the other hand, outputs of the management review should consist of suggestions concerning the direction of strategic development for the organization, suggestions for improvements of individual processes, defined resources necessary for carrying out specific activities and achieving objectives. The standard does not directly indicate the frequency of conducting inspections, but it is assumed that it should not take place less than once a year. It is best practice to conduct reviews on a quarterly basis. The requirements of the ISO 9001 standard oblige organizations to consider the results of analyses and evaluations, as well as the outputs of management reviews. These results may be used to determine whether there are needs or opportunities to improve the management system. Management review is a good tool for improving the management system, but it is often insufficient. Generally, organizations also use other sources of information. Indicators are a very important source of information for the improvement of the quality system. Companies should pay particular attention to the measurements that are connected with the customer satisfaction. It should be carried out on a continuous basis and be subject to regular reviews. While developing the indicator, it is worth determining the method of its calculation, its source, and places for data storage. This can be, for example, complaints, objections, grievances, questionnaires, or surveys. It is also worth indicating the person in charge of the indicator and its monitoring. Now let us take a look at the chart showing the customer satisfaction survey results. We can see that the second customer gave the weakest score. So we have to analyze its impact on the organization. The greater the impact, the more work we need to do to make the score better. If we analyze the results, we can also notice that the weakest score was given to service assessment. This is why we have to take a look at this issue and implement corrective actions to improve our customer service. Customer satisfaction surveys may bring many benefits to the organization. Thanks to these, we get acquainted with the needs and expectations of our stakeholders, which may result in indirect participation of the customer in shaping the quality and design of new products or services. Such a situation is very desirable for both the manufacturer and the customer.